Hello, everybody. I work with the customer success team, and I have used to be a teacher that used Edulastic in the classroom, and I started to work with the team here at Edulastic, and now I teach other teachers from our customer success team and answer those support questions and all that good stuff. So I've had a lot of experience with looking for content in Edulastic and specifically looking for social studies content. So I'm going to start here by sharing some tips and tricks, and then I'll dive into the product and show you a little bit um, more of a in the weeds kind of look at it. So as all of you know, I'm sure anybody who's played around in our format or on any other kinds of resources for curriculum, you as social studies teachers know that the biggest challenge that we've come across is that the topics are taught at different times in different grades across different states. So if you can imagine what it's like for Edulastic when we try to get a groundswell of content that fits everybody's needs, it just doesn't happen. So we have come across a few tips that we like to share with teachers, and these tips actually work for any subject, but I find them to be pretty dead on for social studies too. So just as a high level overview, normally in most search engines that you work with, it's the inclination is to narrow down your search with as many filters as possible. However, our filters tend to be so finicky, and with the nature of the social studies content, it's almost better to use the fewest filters you can use. So I recommend removing most search filters except for perhaps the social studies subject and the grade you're looking for. And even grade when it comes to social studies is not always a dead on indicator because, for example, in one state, world history might be taught in seventh grade, and another state, pieces of it are taught in fifth grade. And so, what a seventh grader or a ninth grader is learning in California might be a totally different spin on world history that a fifth grader's interested in or is taught in another state. So even when you're searching by grade level, it does tend to narrow down your searches. So what I like to do is keep it as broad as possible and then search on some keywords. Um, so those, I'll show you both of those as a search term. Before I get too far away from here, the other three things that I want to share with you is I'll give you a few tricks for making quick questions if you don't have if you're not finding the content that you want. And then some other quick good tips that we tell all of our users is when you're building questions or when you're using questions or even reusing somebody else's from our library and making it available for others, if you use the tag feature, it tends to help search. And so it might expand your search a little bit more. And also, we have recently re-released the ability to publish your private assessments in the public library for others to use. So more than any other subject that we have, this is especially important in social studies because tons of teachers, hundreds, thousands of teachers across the country have social studies questions in their private library. And by sharing that to the public library, you're increasing more of our collective questions and more of our resources across the country. So it's a real service if you are willing to do that. And we love to see that and love to have that. So let me move away here from my slides. Oops, excuse me, I'm finishing the slide deck, I'm sorry. And I want to share my screen with my Edulastic. Hold on. Oh, did I'll have to tell you that I use Zoom literally every day and I still have the occasional glitch. Okay, so I'm hoping you can see this, my teacher screen now. And from the dashboard, I'm going to take you down in here to the test library and the item bank. And this is where, when you're looking for content that exists, you can find it. So I'm going to start with the test library. And the first thing I'm going to do is clear all. So this is what I was referring to about very sensitive filters. And often if you're looking for something that you can't find, it's likely because the filter has stuck on something that you were searching previously. So by clearing all, by focusing just on the subject. And then up here, I like to type in a keyword. So I sort of set this up here for revolutionary. Oh. So I'm just using a keyword like revolutionary, which gives me a broad range of items here. If I were to type in US Revolutionary War, that doesn't always yield as many results. So single word that are broad keystrokes will give you a more populated return. So let's go, but let's take this a little bit further. I'm going to do the ones that were authored by me. I'm going to remove the revolutionary. And so these were all of the ones that I have authored. But again, going back to the entire library is where I can see ones that anybody from the country have populated, as well as Edulastic's team. We often write items and share that as well. So this is the segue that I want to take you into to see a couple of easy ways. If you're searching through this test library or the item bank and you're not finding content that you want to use or content that's quite applicable to you, you can make your own in some pretty simple ways. So what I like to do is I like to use multimedia or images to prompt like an essay prompt that I would be asking anyways on paper. So you can do it by creating a new test, and I'm going to give you an example here. So let's do Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. I have links to this in that presentation from earlier, and you can refer back to this later, or you can just search on this term here in the library. It's in the public library, and you can search on this, and you can actually change mine around and make it work for whatever you're using. But this one is Paul Revere's Midnight Ride. It's a quick check that includes a YouTube video. So if your students are allowed to, or your firewall allows students to access YouTube or another outside site, this is a really quick way of making some content. So let's go into the details so you can see what it looks like. So I've got two passages here, or two questions here. One is a question that I borrowed from the library, and this is made by an author called Elizabeth Kasner. And then I went ahead and created one on my own very quickly using the YouTube repository. So the way that this YouTube one looks is I have used the multimedia, as Greg showed earlier, to embed the code from YouTube. And then I've asked several questions here about this. So the students can watch this and then answer these comprehension questions. So these questions actually were part of the YouTube presentation. So I didn't have to think too hard about it. I just was able to pull it from the presentation and enter the answers. And I think this took just a few minutes to build. So that's one option, is to be able to include that multimedia. It looks like this for the student. View as a student, here we go. So this is the first question. This is two excerpts, and they can answer that first question. Again, I found that in the library. Next, here's the video clip. They'd watch that and then answer these questions. And it's kind of a nice way to, one, it saves you time as a teacher, but it also engages the students in a way that might be a nice layering effect to what your curriculum already has or what your textbook says, for example. So that's one example. Let me back up here real quick, and I'm going to show you another type of thing that you can do very quickly. This is a Revolutionary War essay response. So this would have been something that I might have given as a paper essay, end of a unit type of essay, but I made it a passage-based question. And then I added an image that I downloaded from the National Museum of Art. And then I just said, using this famous painting, describe the events of the Revolutionary War before and after this turning point. So to think of that and to create that is, a very quick one-off way to engage the students, and you don't have to build a full set of questions or, repurpose all of your other questions from other formats into Edulastic. So that's another option. And then the other one I wanted to show you, it's the same concept, but I took a map and I just uploaded the map and ask them to respond in an essay prompt using the map as the impetus. So using the map as a prompt, describe the significance of the Silk Road, include dates, historical figures involved, and a minimum of 3 areas that were affected by its existence. So if I had a test that had, maybe it was a multiple choice type test and it had several questions about this, I could just build that into this and continue to add on, or I could just condense all of those for a quick hit and have them respond in an essay format. So those are just some quick ways that you can do that. Now, while you are building these questions, I'm going to go to this edit mode here. You have a place to enter tags, and the tags are a way to make this easily searchable. So I put world history, I put trade routes, I could put Marco Polo. You can put any tags that you think are relevant, and the tags will help you and other teachers find the topic. So when you're struggling to find something by the title of the assessment name, often these tags go a long way in helping you narrow down to what you're looking for. So I've just added those. I'm going to publish it. So now I've published it, and here's how you go to the public library. So right now, when you initially publish it, it goes just to your private library. Here, I'm making it available for everyone, and then I'll share it out, and now it goes into the public library. So those are just a few tricks that I recommend. Again, now if I were to clear all my filters and search on Marco Polo, let's see what comes up. Yeah, so that one immediately came up, and so did somebody else's about Marco Polo. So you have to dive in a little bit and see what each one of those consisted of. But this little tag, when I have 0 filters set up, by searching on a keyword, I'm still able to come across some good topics. That's the majority of what I wanted to share. I'm happy to answer any questions.